Okay, we are off. Welcome to the Brad Bodderchuk podcast, Natasha and Ed.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Hey, thanks for having us, Brad.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I always find it a bit strange, I'll be honest. And you guys obviously have done podcasts, have done interviews. Now, I find it strange, if those of you listening, we obviously had like a preamble before we said, "Hey, welcome to the podcast." I find it like a bit awkward to like re-welcome you to the podcast. We've already done that, but it would sound strange, I guess, if we didn't do that. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I say this to all of my guests, and perhaps you've heard me say it if you listen to the podcast, which you say that you have. So thank you for that. I'm a big believer that time is the most valuable thing that we have. So I want to sincerely thank you both for giving your time to me and the listeners. It means a lot. And if it wasn't for people like you being so kind with your time, this show would really lack. So thank you so much for doing that. And I also know this is a day off for you both. So thank
But
you
it
for that.
was, I booked a load of meetings.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's a snowboard today. And then Tasha's like, we
Half
have
the day.
2 podcasts, a meeting with an SEO, and we have a live Instagram chat. I'm like, cool. Maybe for an hour later.
Can I? That's actually something that I've wanted to dive into, and something I'll be very open with you guys and listeners as well. Is I'm really kind of pivoting my offering or focusing now really more on relationships and how those create both business relationships, intimate relationships, family relationships, friendships. I find relationships, especially in hospitality, are such a important piece of what we are either attempting to do or doing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to assume, but I think from what I've seen and read of you two, um, relationships play such a key role in what you're doing and attempting to do. So before I go any further with this, I did want to ask, since Ed, you and I haven't really chatted. Natasha was kind of the one that spearheaded this and was open to me just being like, "Hey, come on the show." So how do you, Ed, I guess, balance that, approach that when Natasha comes to you and says like, "Hey, this is what we're doing." Are you just like, yes, ma'am, or do you
Yeah, I mean,
challenge it at times?
it's obviously a lot of trust. Like, Tash and I have been together for a long time. We're obviously married, so like we have a strong relationship, and I trust that whatever she's getting me to do or saying we're going to be on this podcast, I trust that it's going to bring more business to the shop, bring more attention to the company, our vision and mission of obviously being 100% vegan bakery is quite unusual. So there's like that sort of element to our business.
Mm-hmm.
We're very much like people, like we invest in people, we look after our staff. I've worked in hospitality since I was 13, so I absolutely love it. I love sort of making new friends, meeting new people. So yeah, when Tash comes to me with an idea or something like that, she's very much an ideas person. I'm a doer and she's a thinker.
Oh.
Would you agree, Natasha?
Yeah, I definitely am an ideas person, and I actually, that's like, if I'm given a project to like try and think of something for this or this, I'll love just sitting there coming up with a load of crazy ideas. And I'm not too precious about them, like, but I'll always bring them to the table and I'll be like, so I've had an idea for this, I've had an idea for that, and I'm okay if they get rejected. It'll just spur me on to the next idea. But I do, that is definitely where I excel. And we did one of those personality tests once in a company I worked at, and they sort of labeled you as what your skill set was, and I did come out as the ideas person. So it has been scientifically proven that is
I did a similar test actually when I was younger, and it was like a careers thing.
Oh no, that's the thing you do at school.
That was at school.
Yeah.
And it was careers, and my top job came out as a florist because I like to make things look pretty. The next one was a chef, which I was. So
Okay.
it shows that like creativity and things look pretty. It's good. Sorry, I digressed a bit there.
No, I think that's great. And is it so from my understanding, again, from watching and listening to interviews that you guys have done and seeing what you're executing right now with your brand is, and stop me here if I'm just like putting too long of a tail on this kite, but Tasha, are you the ideas and Ed, you're the execution, or sorry, I call you Tasha. My sister's name is Tasha. I
I know you.
apologize. Natasha.
Everybody who's my friend calls me Tash.
Okay, I
So
apologize.
You're good, Brad.
I know
You're
what you're saying there, Brad. So in the company, we have defined roles in that my title for legal purposes is CEO and Ed is COO, so Chief of Operations. So he is the boss when we're running the shop. He takes care of, the health and safety and the day-to-day runnings of the shop. In the shop, he is the chief. But when it comes to strategy, I tend to take more of that's more my role kind of thing, where the business is going. So like, for example, partnering with Trees for the Future, plant a coffee for every tree we sell, those kind of initiatives.
The other way around.
You could plant a coffee too.
Plant a tree for every coffee we sell. Yes, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, it's really unique. No one else plants coffee, but
maybe they should.
Like that I came to because their health inspector put a limit on our permit when COVID started that we could only use single-use containers. We received a new health permit through the post, and that's what it said. And that was a bit annoying because we pride ourselves on being environmentally conscious, always discounted people for bringing their own cup. We sold reusable cups in the store, and we would always say to people, is that for here instead of is that to go, and encourage people to use a reusable cup. And then the health inspector was like, it's not safe enough. And I think that might be because we don't have a commercial dishwasher machine. We have a person that dishwashes and like a triple sink setup and all the chemicals, but it's all done in the sink. So we're like, what can we do that would still be in alignment with our environmentally conscious like direction, but also, take into account the pandemic. And so that kind of thing. I'll think up ideas on how we can pivot our strategy and things like that.
I love that. I love that paradigm. And I think it's so encouraging now seeing entrepreneurs like yourself and just hearing you articulate that process. Whereas, so it's twofold for me as you explain that. One, where most would see challenges, you found opportunity and aligning your brand and doing those things, which makes sense for you guys as a business. But then also doing something that is like, I don't want to say conscious capital, but like a conscious economy and being concerned. And as you're describing that to me, and I've seen a bit of what you've promoted through your social platforms in regards to planting a tree for every coffee, it reminded me of the Tom's shoe business model a bit, which was so new at the time and still is such a phenomenal business model as far as I'm concerned, that gives so much back. And I love that you guys are, not to pump your tires here too much a few minutes into the podcast, but you guys are making bread and baked goods and serving coffee, which to the layman is pretty simple. It's like it's bread and it's coffee,
and it's not high profit margin.
It's not high profit margin, but then to go and then align yourselves with something like that. I think it's such a forward thinking, a longer game that you guys are, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like playing here, which is great because I feel like a brand like yours or a brand like mine, or if you have some sort of following, it is your responsibility to do something with it. And seeing you guys do that is so encouraging, and seeing you do it at such a young company as well is so encouraging. I think it's easier for companies that are more established and have a little more track record to be like, oh, we should probably do this now, as opposed to like, no, we're still new and we're going to make sure everyone understands this is very important to us. So I just want to say like kudos to you guys. And I was just thinking as you were telling that story of that Tom's model where yes, we're a business and yes, we want to make money. That's not a hidden fact. But we also have concerns for individuals and our environment.
Yeah, we have like a sort of triangle: people, planet, and people, planet, and animals. So we try to, every decision we make comes back to our mission of, are we doing some good? Are we serving the people, the planet, and the animals? And so we try to, the Trees for the Future is a great partnership because they help impoverished farmers that have got like terrible land quality regenerate the land. So they're, going to have an income. So it's helping the people, it's helping the planet because we're planting more trees, and that's great. And that's also going to create habitat and food for animals, whether it's the animals that the people rely on. for their survival, or it's the animals that live in the trees and whatnot. So that kind of thing, that's what every decision comes back to.
I love that. And it's so key as well. I think in any business, or going back to relationships, you have to have like your top three values. Like what are your three, or what are your four, that you're just not not willing, pardon me, to like bend on or break.
Mhm.
I think that's imperative. And it's great, like I said, that you guys have established those, because that really allows for you to be guided by those three
Yeah.
things. When you come up against a tough decision, you're like, well, does it make sense? Is there an alignment? Yes or no? And then you kind of make that decision, which is, I think it makes decision making a heck of a lot easier
Yes.
when, you know what, I think, especially, and we'll get into this dynamic a little bit more, the dynamic of you guys being a married couple, but also business operators, that those values, that triangle that you have established, to me as an outsider, can almost be like your counselor in a situation. Be like,
Yeah.
well, I think this, you think that. Let's just refer to the triangle. What does a
Yeah.
triangle say? Right?
Yeah, I mean, for me now, we've heard it before, being a vegan business isn't enough because there's so many new vegan businesses.
Mm,
Saying support local almost isn't enough. It's like, what is behind that? When you say support local, what does this business represent? What are they trying to achieve? So for us, it's like, yes, we want people to support us, but we also want them to believe and support the mission that we're trying to do. So I think that's where we're really trying to sort of reach out to Canadians and sort of like bring them in, like you said, like doing podcasts like you, so people can like really hear our story.
Yeah.
It's not just about our local community now, who are amazing, they're so supportive, but it's also widening that community. So, you know, when tourism can open up after sort of COVID, hopefully we can, you know, move forward throughout, you know, this summer. We feel a lot more positive with the vaccine and things like that. So that's our main goal really, is letting people know what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I've always found that to be a very fine line as well, from a business standpoint and just from a personal choice standpoint, is you, and I tread carefully here. Again, I don't want to put words in your mouths, but you almost don't want to like soapbox yourselves. You don't want to be standing up there saying like, hey, don't eat meat, or don't wear leather shoes, or whatever it is. So it's, for me, like in hospitality, like you guys have done fine dining, and I think fine dining restaurants do it a lot of times better than most. It almost feels like a dance where they're getting their point across in a very subconscious way. It's happening, but you don't really know it's happening. And I think that's what I like about brands that they stand for something and they believe in something, but I don't feel like it's being forced upon me. It's like, we're here, we'll answer questions if you have questions, but just engage with it and just kind of interact with it. And through that, like almost like an osmosis experience, you'll begin to learn more. So have you guys found that with this brand, with Bred, it being a bit of a dance, trying to figure out, okay, how do we get our 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 like why across without making people feel like their choices are wrong or their choices are bad?
I think a lot of people, most of our customers aren't vegan. A lot of them come in, they don't even know that we're a vegan company. We don't have it on the front door. At the time when we opened, we were like, we're going to call it a plant-based bakery. It wasn't used by these huge brands as much. That's definitely exploded with KFC and McDonald's and companies like that in the last couple of years. And now it's kind of like, oh, maybe we should be using the word vegan more, because we have vegan people that come to see us and they don't even believe that everything is. We're like, would you like cream cheese frosting with your cinnamon bun?
Yeah.
They're like, is it vegan?
It's so subtle.
They have to ask everything. It's very subtle activism.
Or they don't even ask if it's vegan. They just go, well, I would if you had a dairy-free option, and they just can get quite shirty with you. And you're like, actually, everything here is vegan. And they're like, what? Is that vegan? Is that vegan? And they'll go through like every product, and you're like, yep, everything. And then they go, okay, yeah, I'll get a cappuccino with oat milk then. And you go, okay, do you want chocolate sprinkles on that? They go, no, I'm vegan. And I go, yeah, the chocolate's vegan. And I almost thought, do we need to get like a vegan certification? I looked into it, but because we're a production kitchen, it's like a huge cost.
Right.
Whereas if you get your product manufactured in another factory, you can just find a factory that's already vegan certified and then just carry on that logo. But
Right.
for us, because we're the manufacturer and the retailer of the products, then it's quite a lot of cash to put up for that. And essentially, I think, as Ed said, most of our customers, they're not vegan, and a lot of people are already vegan and not using the word vegan because they're transitioning. And so vegan's such a heavy word for people to identify with, that we're just happy every time someone makes a plant-based choice and comes to us instead of someone else. So
I think it's this, it's almost, it almost is when you're talking about chocolate sprinkles and cream cheese frosting, which I think like there should be no other frosting other than cream cheese frosting in the world. It's almost, it seems like too good to be true. It's like a disbelief. So when they're like, okay, I can't have that, and you're like, no, as I clearly stated, everything is, I feel like I think you guys do have some branded swag. If you don't already, you should put on the back ... Yes, everything is actually vegan, just reminding people like it is all vegan.
We wanted to put on our tote bags, don't forget your bag.
Oh, I like that.
Don't forget we're vegan or something.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Can I have a thing for bread puns in the bakery? I'm really sorry.
Ed, can I ask just in regards quickly, because we've kind of established that Natasha is the ideas person, wearing the CEO hat. You're operating under the umbrella of a COO. But when it comes to the creativity piece, is Tash influencing menu ideas as well, or is that completely your world?
No, to some degree. Like Tash is a very good home cook, but even like, amateur baker, like she definitely knows flavors. She's definitely heavily involved in the taste testing.
And she should be. Yeah.
But I would say 90% of the sort of creativity within the baked goods comes down to myself. Like I said, I've been in kitchens since I was 13. My dad took me to this little restaurant and instantly fell in love with it. The hustle and the sort of feeling you get when you're really busy. And then started making sourdough 12 years ago within fine dining restaurants. And then started the company as a grassroots sort of on Facebook, pre-order only, pickup. I used to rent the kitchen that I was working in Whistler. And then slowly transitioned to the customer saying, you need to open up a bakery. And that's where the sort of like the light bulb went off, and we were like, okay, we've got some traction here. A local newspaper did sort of an article on us saying the best bread that you don't know about. So it was like this sort of bread club, like I was Brad Pitt or something like that. I thought,
it was very underground.
Or maybe Edward Norton.
Yeah, either works. That's great.
Either works. So I mean, I really enjoy putting flavors together, having the chef background and the fine dining background. Like I've worked in pastry sections and really enjoy unusual flavor combinations and textures. And I think that's where it also comes back to people have this preconception when they go to a vegan bakery, how it's going to look. It's not going to look necessarily pretty. It's going to be like basic brownies and cookies. So we try and go sort of a bit higher finesse with everything we do. And we look at, how is it going to be garnished? Where's the product coming from? Is it seasonal? Okay, we can only get cherries for a month. Let's buy, 5 times what we need and make, a jam or a compote with them, and preserve. I'm very much into preserving, especially being in Whistler. It's very short seasons. So I really enjoy that, and sort of creating new breads, looking at British classics and bringing them over here as well.
Such as?
Childhood memories.
Bakewell tarts.
Bakewell tarts, which is a classic tart from a town in the UK called from Bakewell. And it's like a pastry base, cherry jam, and a frangipane, which is like an almond sponge.
Yeah.
So we've done different varieties of that. My grandparents are Scottish, so we've done shortbread in the past, which is great because obviously we're in British Columbia, so there's a lot of English heritage people here that have got like family still living there or remember things that their grandparents made them. So I think it kind of, that's another angle that we come in at that makes us a bit different.
But we have like big cookies that Canadians like, and cinnamon buns.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever had a cinnamon bun until I came to Canada, and now it's like our staple, like small baked item is the cinnamon bun. That's what we're known for, because we can use the sourdough culture in that. And so as a sourdough bakery, it makes sense that that would be our sort of rock star product.
Yeah. So of all your SKUs, obviously Bred is probably leading the pack, but from the more the sweet side, is the cinnamon bun just running away with it?
Cinnamon buns are huge, and we're always tweaking them. I would say now I look back, a year ago to where we are now, and they're even better than they were. Like, we've improved the cinnamon. We now buy organic cinnamon from a company in Sri Lanka that donate money back to elephant sanctuaries. So again, it's kind of like looking at what that company is doing as well. And that cinnamon is crazy. It's like the flavor and the complexity of it is really nice. So, and then we do, again, seasonal. So we're coming up to Burns night is next weekend, Robert Burns.
Yeah.
So we're going to do like a raspberry and toasted oat cinnamon bun, and we put some whiskey in there. So we have fun with them as well.
And then all the people come out the woodwork, and you're like, oh, there are Scots in town too.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like a bit of whiskey?
I've got two questions. One, before I forget this, where you guys are in Creekside, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the original village when it was first built.
I'm trying to picture where you are, because
BC liquor store. Everyone knows the liquor store, right? We're kind of opposite them. So there's the liquor store, and then diagonal, there's like a kind of cute cabin-looking building. We're in there.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I don't know if you know this, but for 5.5 years, I sold beer. I don't drink anything, but I sold beer for 5.5 years. So I looked after Whistler as my territory, and I would service that liquor store in Creekside. So as I was preparing for our call today, I was in my mind's eye, I was trying to picture, like, because there's the grocery store upstairs, if you will.
Yes, we're downstairs, same level.
Downstairs to the left.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
What was there before?
An internet cafe.
And next door used to be a Subway.
Oh, okay.
But we arrived to Whistler in 2013, and it was empty for 5 years. There was nothing in there, and then a new landlady came in and bought it and wanted to sort of start putting businesses in, and was like, this isn't just a money maker. Like the previous landlady, I think, just saw it as a tax write-off and could sit on it and just make money as it grew property wise.
And it didn't make any sense, because the locals looked at this empty little village in a ski town and were like, why is there nothing here?
Yeah.
And then thank God this new lady bought it, and it's kind of cool because we've been part of the like resurrection of Creekside Village, that it's now becoming a place for locals to come back to, and there are things going in all the spots now.
I feel like Creekside, and we just left last year, but I feel like Creekside is kind of like, it's like the heartbeat of the rest of the mountain. So if those of you that don't know, those of you that have never been to Whistler or had the opportunity, when you do go and you do want to get yourself that cinnamon bun or a couple loaves of sourdough, it's going to be like like they said, it's like it was the original the original, what was the word you said?
Village. It was the
village.
original.
Yeah, thank you. So you're gonna take that right, and there's just this little cute, quaint little space, but there's so much opportunity in there. That's so cool that you guys have found a home there. That's great.
The awesome thing is, for anyone that's driving up from the south, which is where most of the traffic comes from, like Vancouver, obviously, Creekside, we have free parking, which is actually one of the very few places now that you can get free parking. So it's really convenient. You can just park up, grab a coffee, a cinnamon bun, and then come back later and pick up bread. And we even take pre-orders. So if you want to secure, because we do try and sell out every day, you can prepay for your bread. We'll hold it for you.
Go skiing.
Go up and ski or hike or go mountain
shred
biking.
to bread.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, is that a thing? Have you guys done that? Shred to bread?
Logos, you can buy T-shirts from us that say "bread to shred."
Can I buy that online?
We're working
on shipping. One of my projects to get going with, because we do get quite a bit of interest, and even from people in like Australia and stuff. They're like, just did your bakery like 2 years ago. Like, can I get a t-shirt? And you're like, okay.
Oh man, I'd wear that shirt for sure, for sure. Let's change speeds just for a second and talk about inspiration. And Natasha, I'll pick your brain first with this. And I think for Ed, it's kind of a more of an easier one to field because there's so much going on in sourdough and in baking and in food. But Natasha, with your role, being a female, being a CEO of a business, whether it is other females or males, dead or alive, who do you look to as inspiration when you are running your business, when you're making key decisions? Is there anyone like a mentor, if you will, again, dead or alive, that you think like, oh, I really appreciate or respect or am fond of what they have done or are currently doing with their business?
Yes, but they're all in different places. So one lady's called Katrina Fox. She is actually based in Sydney, Australia, but she has a podcast called Vegan Business Talk. And I started listening to that when I was first starting to think about opening a business. And then she plugged her course. She has a journalist background. She used to be a journalist for Forbes. So I did her media course, and I did actually get us featured in Forbes and some
I
other,
saw that. Yeah.
yeah, and some other traction through doing her media course. And then during the COVID lockdown, she started something called the Vegan Women's Leadership Network, where women from all over the world that are sort of leaders in their field come together. We have meetups and we have training sessions online on different things. And through that, I met another lady called Kathleen Gage, and she's based in Oregon, down in the States. And she has two podcasts. One's called Power Up for Profits, and one's called Plant-Based Eating for Health. And she has a course on how to get like how to become a guest on podcasts.
Oh, okay.
And I did her course on that, and then she's opened me up to some of her network as well. And then Katrina also did a talk at the UK Veg Fest online. This is a festival that I've been to years ago back in the UK, but then obviously in 2020 they had to pivot to online, which was great because it meant me now in Canada
Right. Yeah.
some of the online events. And then I connected with a man called David Pannell and his wife Lisa, and they have set up a marketing course with their new company Vegan Business Tribe. And so I'm working through that with, and they've been such a great support to us. And they even gave us some mentor sessions, and I can send them emails. They answer my questions straight back. So having these people who, it's kind of cool, they're like all over the world, but it's opened up a lot of opportunities for us, and it's helped us really think through our business strategy. It's been a bit unfortunate that I haven't found people like this in Canada, but I just felt that, you know, with online and everyone sitting at home, these people have been really helpful, and I hope that soon these kind of opportunities will become available in Canada, and who knows, maybe I'll be able to help set something like this up over here as well.
Yeah.
But for now, the States, Australia, UK, I've got a kind of network, so very international group of mentors.
I love that. And I want to call something out for the listeners just quickly here. And as you were describing that, Natasha, you mentioned one thing multiple times. And for the listeners, if you guys are looking at kind of learning anything from Natasha and Ed on this podcast, I think what Natasha just mentioned a few times, probably unconsciously, is she's aggressively investing in herself. She's taking online courses, webinars, doing all these things that, yeah, it's an investment, but it's directly impacting, again, that triangle that her and Ed have established and driving her business forward. And I think it reminds me of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where he talks about like, yeah, you can go to university, but I would recommend go to the library and go to webinars and take seminars and attend these events, because there's far more applicable, like, strategic information in those places than you'll find in a traditional university. Obviously a broad stroking statement, but as you were describing that, Tasha, I was thinking like, man, she's doing a ton of investing in herself. And you're also, again, maybe unconsciously, you're creating this community within a community, and perhaps you can be that for someone else. Like you said, you haven't come across anyone in Canada yet that's kind of that ilk, but perhaps that's another space, an opportunity for you not only to grow Bred as a business, but also your personal brand as well. So I think there's a ton
Yeah.
of opportunity there. So I was really encouraging, and I just wanted to highlight that to not only you if you weren't aware of it, but also listeners as well. Like there's a bunch of investment going on there for yourself, which I think is such a key piece to highlight and to champion. So I'm encouraged by that, and I want to thank you for sharing that as well. It's great.
There's just one thing I'd say on that, Brad, though, in that if you start to look into, let's say, online marketing or digital marketing, it's quite a rabbit hole. And there's so many people out there selling stuff online now, and you really have to sort through the junk. And one example is SEO. When you start a business or you start a website, you get absolutely pummeled every day by SEO people trying to get your attention, telling you that your website's broken, telling you that they can help you improve your Google rankings. And you can quite easily end up giving these, they could be fraudsters, more or less, or just not give you great value for money. And so I was very fortunate through my connections in these networks. I've found somebody that's really good and offered me some free advice. They did a free audit of our website and put it together in a video. And we're super pleased with the work that they've done. And I never would have paid anybody money to do SEO because I just thought they were all scammers. So you really have to sort through the junk and sort of, I would say, look for people that can give you something for free first, like a taster, trial it. Don't give your money to someone unless you're sort of sure that you're going to get good value, because as I said, there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. Can I then just offer you up to the listeners and say like, hey, if you need some insight on some reliable sources, maybe reach out to Tash?
Yeah. Just head to our website, edsbred.com, edsbred.com. You can email us through the website.
Awesome.
And if you want like an in-depth chat, we do offer consultation to bakers and vegan entrepreneurs as well. So that's in our shop section.
Love it. So again, staying on the path of inspiration, Ed, I'm going to assume there's a plethora of people or restaurants or bakeries globally that really inspire you. But right now, where you find yourself in this moment in time, who do you look to as a mentor or an inspiration for creating what you're creating?
I mean, there's a lot of high-end sourdough bakeries around the world, and the internet just makes that so much easier. I find I generally run all the Instagram that we do. I really enjoy food photography in general. And when I can, I try and sort of plan that. Also, it's great for promoting any new products that we're doing. Our customers love to come and try, a special loaf that we're doing or anything like that. But what I found is it's opened up to this very close-knit group of sourdough bakers that I'm still humbled to be part of, because I've got people from these amazing bakeries, like Hart Bakery in Copenhagen. Like Richard Hart used to be the head baker of Tartine in San Francisco, which in my mind is like one of the, top bakeries in the world. So people like that, he inspires me every day. Very much not vegan, but from my standpoint, I'm like, I can do that. I could change that to a vegan recipe or something like that. Or I went down to LA and worked with a couple of guys that set up a bakery called Lodge Bred that was really inspiring. I just started Bred as a business and used some of the money that I'd made to go and sort of educate myself. They call it a stage, where you basically go to a kitchen or bakery, work for free. And it's very hard to get into. I get a lot of people write to me and say, can I come and work for you for free? But almost it's not enough now. It's kind of like, if you come and work with us, you need to, especially because of COVID, we're only allowed a certain amount of people in the bakery. It's kind of, I have to turn a lot of people down, but I always try and answer people's questions. People write to us directly through that. And then also the plant-based vegan movement, I get a lot of separate accounts that we sort of connect with through that. There's a guy called Matthew Kenny, who's a very high-end plant-based chef. He's got over 40 restaurants around the world. His sort of mothership is again in LA, Plant Food and Wine. And when I was sort of transitioning to calling myself vegan, I went there when I went to LA to work for a few bakeries, and went to his restaurant and was blown away by this like fine dining vegan meal, because you just don't really see that. There's no, at the moment, as far as I know, there's no Michelin star vegan restaurant, for example. I can see it's definitely coming, that they're going to have to, the Michelin Guide are going to have to sort of look at that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a movement that's just going to grow over the next sort of 5 to 10 years and become much more approachable and normal, I guess.
And we're also doing Matthew Kenny's online cooking course as well. We started doing that as like a fun thing to do through the lockdown. So each
amazing.
has a different like focus. There's tons and tons of them, and we're like even worried if we're going to be able to finish it in next year. We're on the ice cream one at the moment, so we're like trying to experiment with, can we do sourdough ice cream?
Oh, okay. I'd be intrigued by that.
I've done things like that before, where you sort of infuse toast. I guess it would be the best way to get more flavor into the, coconut milk or oat milk or something. And then you can churn it the same and get that sort of flavor through. So we're going to play with, maybe in the summer, starting to do affogatos. So
okay, yeah.
Sourdough affogato.
Yeah. Sourdough ice cream with a double shot of coffee over the top.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have to say, having you guys on the podcast has been super fun, and we still have longer if you guys are open to it. But I'll be honest, I had ulterior motives in having you on today.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to share my ulterior motive now. So Lindsay, my beautiful partner, mother of our 2 children, and I have decided that we're finally going to give sourdough a go. Like, make our own starter and do it.
Nice.
Okay.
Ed, I need your cell phone number so I can FaceTime you tomorrow, and I need to show you the starter. So we've tried 4 times now, and we've ended up each time it just doesn't. She's not happy. The starter is not happy. So no, ulterior motive for myself, but also for listeners. I think this is a big thing now with COVID. People are trying sourdough at home. So can you give me and listeners any advice in regards to maybe like your top 3 or top 5? Like, guys, you have to be doing this to start. If not, it's not going to work. And I'll just give you a brief kind of a high level of what we've been doing and why, and we are following the tartine recipe, if you will.
Yeah.
So we've noticed the first few days, we'll wake up and there's obviously some activity. There's bubbles. There's that awesome yeasty, sour, fermented smell. And that will be consistent for a few days. And then all of a sudden she just gets lazy and it looks like doesn't want to play anymore. So we'll bin it and then start again. So that's where we're currently at. And we're trying it again. But what would be your, like, hey guys, these are the must do's if you're starting literally from start with a starter?
I would say the number one thing, and we decided it from the start, is use organic flour.
Yep.
If you can. If you're going to make your own bread, you are going to save money, but what you're going to save in money costs you time. So obviously sourdough, it's a slow process, but you don't need to sort of like, once you've made a few loaves, you won't need to sort of like stay at home all day. But they definitely use organic flour, because also there's going to be more enzymes and there's going to be more activity and less crap in there, basically. So that's the number one tip. Number two would be, when you're starting your starter, I would use 50% or 25% rye flour.
Okay.
If you're just doing wheat, but you can add a bit of rye flour in there. It's naturally higher in sugar. And therefore those sugars, like we know, yeast loves sugar, it feeds on that. So that's a good tip, to use a little bit of rye flour in there. And then I would say you need to write it down, like have a little journal or have a schedule. So for us, we feed our sourdough every day at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. So it always gets
twice a day.
Twice a day.
Okay.
And you need to be pretty strict with that, because especially when you're starting it, the first 2 or 3 weeks, you really need to build those bacterias. They're really clever and they need to know that schedule, that, okay, we're going to hit this point, but we're going to get some more food, and the food is the flour. So you need to do like whatever time that is. So normally on my days off, I change that to 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. because I don't want to get up at 4:30 on a day off.
Right,
But
yeah.
I keep it out. Some people put them in the fridge, which is totally fine as well. Once
Which slows the ferment, right?
slows the ferment down. So once you get your sourdough going, you're not going to want to feed it every day, because then you end up having a lot of discard, they call it. You can use that discard for pancakes and waffles, crumpets. There's a ton of recipes out there that you can use them for, and it's really fun to do because it's fermented, so it's good for our gut bacteria, our gut health. So I would say the schedule is another one. I'm assuming because you have kids, your home is probably pretty warm. It's
like 20, 22, 23.
Yeah, so you definitely want a warm environment. If you're trying to save money and your heating's off and the house is cold, that's also in the early stages. Starting a starter is going to prove a little bit difficult. So try and find a warmer.
Sorry, Bred pun.
Another t-shirt option there.
Try and find like a warmer spot, like maybe your bathroom is a bit warmer, so keep it in there in the jar. What else would I say? I really like the fact that you're doing it yourself. So we have a lot of people that come in and they say, I want to make sourdough. Can I buy your starter? Right. And for me, we've had briefings about it with our staff. We have daily meetings before we open.
I think that came from your podcast.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
Told you I listened.
So Tash did bring that to me, and then straight away I was like, why don't we do this at restaurants? You do it all the time. You have a briefing before you start the day, and sometimes a debriefing before everyone leaves.
Yeah.
It just sort of, well done, everyone did a good job, this, and this, while it's fresh in your mind. So I really like the fact that you're doing it yourself from scratch, because then it gets used to the bacteria on your hands and your body, and it becomes yours. You can name it.
So you're a father of 3 now.
A father of 3, yeah.
Yeah. So we always say, and you can name it and everything. And I say to the staff, I'm like, if someone can't be bothered to start the sourdough starter, they're not gonna really keep it up.
Yeah.
They think that they can take our sourdough starter and they're gonna have bread like we do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's many other steps to making sourdough, and I could talk to you for about 3 hours just to get you going.
And
one thing you might find useful as well is the water that you use. Oh, you're frozen, Brad. I'll keep talking.
Yeah, keep going. I got you over here.
But, there you are. So we now have something called a Berkey water filter in the shop. It's a carbon filtration system for drinking water.
Okay.
Because we did notice that the smell was changing, and Ed looked into it, and it can be the quality of water. So you might want to invest in a water filter. And it would also give you better quality drinking water for your family, but the starter might prefer it.
Yeah, we're on well water here, so I think it's pretty pure. There's no the city's not getting into it, there's no fluoride and stuff. So but yeah, it'd be interesting to check it out.
No, it's really, really good. Like we are the pipes, I think, in Creekside, probably because it's older, aren't as great. And like Tash said, I started noticing this like sulfur, almost eggy smell to the starter, and straight away I was like, this is weird. It's not, you can't taste it, it's not affecting the bread, but it's just, I was like, this is weird. So what I did is I just Googled it and found out that it was the water that we were feeding, the evening feed that was sitting overnight. Just put filtered water in and it went away straight away.
Can I ask this is a personal question perhaps, but I'll dive into it and you guys can just tell me to sod off if you want to, but in the list of priorities in your life for each of you individually, but also as a couple, where is the sourdough starter and where is your relationship? Does the sourdough and it's kind of funny, and I can see the humor in it, but this is a kind of a serious question as well, because my partner and I, we were going through this, we're in this phase of being new parents and running 2 businesses, and it's very easy for us to forget about each other. Although we'll talk a big game and say, you're important to me and you're in my top 3, all those things. But it's also very easy to get caught up in the monotony of you guys are running a business. You've got staff, you've got customers, you've got podcasts and SEO and websites and photographs. It's like, oh, damn, like I haven't asked how you are. And then you got the starter.
Yeah.
So
we need to go into the walk-in fridge and have kisses now. The customers and staff can't see. It's like,
that's secret.
Good for you guys.
Yeah. So sometimes, you just have to sneak away and take off the face mask and sort of a few minutes.
It is a struggle, and there are definitely weeks like leading up to Christmas, for example. It's super busy at the bakery. It's one of the busiest times, I guess, for any hospitality type business. And we're just getting like so many pre-orders for mince pies and everything. And then you have to sort of sacrifice that sort of being a married couple and being in love, and just sort of be more business focused. But then we also close the bakery twice a year in the down season, which we're fortunate to have in Whistler, in sort of May, June, October, November. There aren't a whole lot of visitors up in Whistler. It tends to rain a lot. There's no skiing, no biking. So people just are kind of quite receptive to the idea that we close for a couple of weeks, take a vacation, and then we feel like, we can actually be just husband and wife purely. So we kind of make up for it like that.
Is that
a struggle?
Is that spoken though, or is that just understood? So say, for example, like you're knee deep in mince pie orders and it's Christmas. Are you guys actually having that conversation as a couple? Be like, hey, hun, you know what? This is like, we're in it right now. I'd love to do our Tuesday date night, but it's just not going to be realistic. Are you cool if we put pause on that? Or is it just unspoken and understood?
It's just unspoken.
I think we've said it in previous podcasts that people always say, how is it working with each other? I think it's better that we do work with each other, because if I was just running the bakery on my own, I think I'd come home and want to vent all these things and talk about work, and Tash would be like, I don't want to talk about that, and try and suppress it. Right. Whereas actually we just embrace it. We're like, we're a young business. This is what we talk about. Tash says that we closed, but last year we went to Mexico and we're still on a beach talking about the bakery. So
we did a hike in the summer in Vancouver, the Lynn Canyon hike. And we pretty much reworked the whole cinnamon bun recipe for the entire hike. But now the cinnamon buns are better than they've ever been. So we're really grateful that we did that.
Yeah. And you know what? I thought of this and I wasn't sure if it was going to be safe to say it, but I don't really, I don't jump, I dive into things. So I'm just going to say it. Your Bred is your baby. And so just so you guys know, when Lindsay and I have time away from the kids, guess what we talk about? The kids, right? And that for me just shows, again, it shows vision alignment, right? You don't have one partner being like, can you stop talking about Bred for a minute? Yeah. And it shows like a true, deep, rooted connection to what you guys have created and are trying to create. I think it's a beautiful thing that it almost isn't work. No, it's like, this is just, it's our identity.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, the sourdough starters do come with us to Vancouver if we have
to come on holiday. We have to get hotels with fridges.
Fridges and like a little kitchen area. So we've got a good spot.
Go ahead, sorry, finish your thought.
We've just got a good service department now that we stay at in Vancouver, because it's got it's set up with what I need to feed the starters. And
and years ago, before the business took off at all, Ed was just making sourdough, and we were actually doing woofing. Do you know what that is? It's
on the farm. Yeah.
So we went to Vancouver Island and we were touring around the whole summer working on farms, and we'd arrive at these farms and Ed had this huge massive bag, and it had flour, sourdough starter, and then nuts, seeds, oats, anything you could put in bread. So we're carrying around this big bag, and then we'd get to the farm and be like, they'd be like, so you're sleeping in this trailer? I'm like, okay, is there a fridge in there? A sourdough starter. And he used to make bread for the farmers wherever we were staying. They loved it, of course. But it was just this funny thing. They'd be like, you're traveling, you're backpacking with a sourdough starter?
That's commitment. That's commitment. I have to ask, Ed, you got some ink on your arms, right? Or
yeah. I'm a week.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say. So yeah, cool. I couldn't see it in any of the pictures too clearly, but I assumed that there was some sort of Bred homage on there.
Yeah, so it's I found a girl in Vancouver who's doing these amazing fine tattoos of birds and things like that, and she's quite unusual. And just reached out to her and said, got some diagrams from Wikipedia or something of these beautiful different grains. Send them to her and said, do you think you could put something together? So yeah, I've got spelt on there rye, oats, red fife. I added red fife because it was Canada's one of the first red wheats that was brought over. So when
Nice.
we got our permanent residency, I thought that'd be kind of a nod to Canada to add that. But my idea is to do like, so that's obviously all the wheat and oats and things like that, is to do like a gluten-free sort of thing and have like potato and rice and buckwheat and things like that. But
I like that.
the idea was to have like a potato on my hand
Oh,
with all
Natasha's saying no.
the roots coming down, because there's a potato called the King Edward. So I was like, Tasha's like, it's just gonna look like a stone, like a pebble on your hand.
Or a poo.
Or a giant poo. Yeah.
Thanks, Tash. So yeah, she's vetoed that at the minute. We'll
Yeah,
see.
you know what? Keep trying. And
Yeah.
what I have a couple more questions for you guys, but I again, I'm just so intrigued by relationships right now, and I was thinking about asking you, Ed, the question about the starter and the issues we've been having with it, and I really do feel like relationships are like starters. And hear me out here. The way I look at it is a relationship takes work and it takes time and it takes energy and it takes consistency, especially in the beginning. I think that was Ed's tip number 2 was like be consistent, feeding it twice a day, 5 a.m., 5 p.m. That's what it takes. And then after a while, and Ed jump in here as in regards to the technical side of the starter is concerned, after a while, that starter will pay dividends in regards to not only will it create beautiful bread for you, but it also will be a strong, active starter. And then it can afford to go in the fridge for a bit. It can afford not to have you look after it for a few days. And I feel like that is what good relationships, strong relationships are the ones that you build those strong roots that you know you can rely on, that when things get shaky, it's like, it's okay, we've built this together, it's strong, and you can leave it for a bit and then come back to it. Would you guys agree or disagree or have anything to add to my relationship and starter analogy?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. No, I think you've nailed it. Absolutely. Like you said, it's just like it gets stronger, it can be a bit more resilient, and can be left alone a little bit more, and you can come back to it and it'll bounce back quicker as well. So
Yeah.
like I said, once you get it going, you can pop it in the fridge and bring it out, and within a few feeds you'll be able to, it'll be back to sort of where it was, sort of thing. Even to the point where if we are leaving Canada going on holiday, you can put it in the fridge for 2 weeks. I've seen online people have found a starter that's been in the fridge for 6 months, and what will happen over that time is all the natural alcohol will come to the surface and you get like a black liquid on top.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can tip that off, and that almost acts as like a layer to protect the starter underneath. So you can tip that away, or some people stir that in because they see it as flavor. It might take you 5 or 6 feeds to get back to it, but then it will come back to where it was, which is incredible. And there's even sourdough starters that have been used that are over 300 years old.
Yeah, I think that's one of the like most romantic and beautiful things about things like fermented foods is like it can be so old and so much history. It's just it's crazy. Like,
There's a guy
who's touched that. Yeah,
I think there's a guy, I think he's either in Germany or Austria. He's called the Sourdough Librarian, and he has over 2,000 sourdough starters in his library, but physically he has over 125 in these fridges. And that's my next stage. I'm sort of starting to register ours because he's looking for rye sourdough starters. So we have 2, a wheat sourdough starter and a rye sourdough starter. And he feeds them. You send all your schedule of when you feed them, what type of flour, what temperature your water is, everything like that. So it's a minefield. There's so much cool like information out there, and passionate.
It really is like the science and art coming together. Like, that's what food really is, as far as I'm concerned.
Totally. I mean, when I stepped away, sort of, now I call myself a baker. I used to be a fine dining chef. I was a bit worried. I was like, how am I going to find just making bread every day, because there's so many in a kitchen, so diverse, you make so many different things. But like you said, sourdough is so simple, 3 ingredients, water, flour, salt, but at the same point, so complex. And so it can really, it humbles you. Like it really does. Like have many loaves that humble. I'm like, this is the perfect loaf. And the next day it's like, no, you're rubbish. You shouldn't even call yourself a baker.
Yeah, I think that's life. It is as beautiful as it is ugly, and as difficult as it is easy. And that to me is baking is, I mean, you know what, baking for sure, but also cooking as well. But baking is such a science and such an art that comes together. So thank you for articulating that. Tash, where would you say, and I only ask this question because I'm a father of two young kids and watching them grow at different phases. We have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old,
And your
and
1-year-old
they're
bath,
just, what's that? Sorry?
your 1-year-old destroyed your bathroom the other
Yes,
day.
and Cole destroyed our bathroom, but just watching them and how they learn, interact with their environment. Where is Bred as a business? Is Bred as a business? Is it still in diapers? Is it crawling? Is it starting to walk? Does it have an opinion yet? Like, as far as aligning an analogy of Bred as a business and kind of phases of our life as humans, where are you guys at in that growth?
It's a really hard question to answer, but thank you for asking, because I feel like as we come up to the 2-year mark, in that sense, we're sort of coming out of startup and kind of, we've got quite a big following on Instagram now, and we're kind of getting lots of media attention, and podcast people are reaching out to us, and it's lovely, and in that sense, we're sort of growing. But then obviously COVID did set everything back. We lost half of our team, and we weren't able to open up as many days as we used to. And we've sort of done some hiring and had to filter through like which people are a good fit for the team, and if we are a good fit for them. And we're still kind of at a stage now where we need to grow our business back to what it was before COVID a little bit more. One of the main issues is the capacity. We can't process as many people through the shop as we used to. So that has had an impact on the bottom line. It's not too bad. Like, there's definitely like a lot worse businesses than us. Like, if you go into a restaurant, there might be 8 people dining in, whereas we're seeing like a line of people outside our shop all day, but we just physically can't process them because we can only let 2 people in at a time. So it's a kind of we're ready. We're like a little bird that wants to like take flight, but we're kind of being like pulled back into the tree, sort of like, not yet, not yet. So we're ready. We are very excited about the future, but we have a lot of work to do, as I said, sort of still pivoting the business to maximize our bottom line as much as we can with the restrictions that we're under at the moment. So it's a really weird time.
Like a toddler, maybe, like just kind of sometimes, but then falls
sort of
over.
fell over.
Yeah. So actually, in all seriousness, Bred is Cole. Bred is our son because he understands walking.
Yes.
But he doesn't fully understand that he can do it whenever he wants. He's
Yeah.
ready. He's ready.
Yeah.
But just he needs to get rid of that
Totally.
govern in his mind, which is
I've had a taste of it as well. Like, we've had a taste of walking.
Yeah, exactly.
We were just getting to it when we were 1,
Yeah.
and then COVID was like, no, you're not ready.
We had to shut down a week before our first birthday. We had a champagne reception planned at the Barefoot Bistro with all our staff, and then it was literally like, okay, I'm not even going to hug you because I'm terrified of getting the virus, but goodbye and good luck.
It was my birthday.
Horrible.
My birthday.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Sunday, March the 15th. The Whistler Blackcomb shut down. We were going to go to Vancouver for my birthday, and we were like, we can't go anywhere. 1, because of the COVID, but 2, we have to be here with our staff and sell all the baked goods, because obviously it's sourdough. It was all in the fridge. We were like, we'll sell it all. Everyone, literally most of Whistler was leaving town, so we got absolutely so crazy busy.
Yeah.
And then we closed and we moved it all to an online shop.
It was such a surreal 24 hours. It was like
it's been wild. It's been wild, but you know what? I and Tash, you kind of alluded to this again. I think a bit, perhaps unconsciously or subconsciously, is like this hasn't been awesome, but there will always be challenges in life and in business, and I feel like from having spent the last hour and 2 minutes with you guys is. You don't look at it like, woe is us. You look at it like, okay, what can we do with this? Like,
especially because the whole world is in the same situation.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's almost brought everyone together a little bit more. And like Tash said, you can reach out to family and friends that maybe you haven't spoken to in that long, and you can actually like see them in face to face and say, this is how my business is doing. My brothers both and my dad own businesses, and it's like, okay, this is what we're doing, or and you can sort of come together a bit more, support each other. And I really hope that we won't need to travel as much as we did. Like, these people that are jet setting around the world for one meeting, do we need to do that anymore? Can we just jump on Zoom?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I think if anything, it showed us the resiliency of businesses like yours and just people in general. And
mhm.
while it has challenged a lot of people and it's affected a lot of people, um, people have lost their lives, which is never a good thing and never easy to deal with. But at the same time, there's been a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you guys are in a business model that isn't a fine dining restaurant. And what if you had been, right? So it's
We kind of go both ways because we're an essential service in that we're making bread and we're selling flour and that kind of grocery stuff. But
right.
then we've also got like the cinnamon buns and the coffee. That's not really as essential, but it's just, we can go either for tourists and you can come see us on your day out in Whistler,
Mhm.
or you're a local and you pick up your bread from us every week. And so we're really fortunate that we kind of cater to that two different types of customer. But
Yeah.
for us, we were new entrepreneurs. We'd only been in business a year, so every day pretty much was a challenge. So with us, it was just like COVID. Okay, next challenge, another hurdle. How do we jump over it? Whereas I look
Yeah.
at the other bakeries in town that have maybe been here for 10 years and they just totally shut down for like weeks. And it was like, but you guys are like established. Like you have like thousands of people come every day. Why would you totally close? Why would you not have like an online ordering service like we did within 24 hours? But I think they got so used to like their sort of routine, their systems,
Yeah.
that it was just totally overwhelming and mind-blowing to think how they could pivot.
And
So
I
it
think
was kind
that,
of an advantage.
and that's a key point as well, is anticipation. I talk about that a lot with my clients, both my business clients and my individual clients, is like we need to literally draw an anticipation playbook. So all of my clients have an anticipation playbook. We develop literally written word. We sit down and go, okay, what could happen? And then
Yeah.
we plan for it. We literally run like a war room. Okay, how would the business react? Okay, how would you react? Okay, who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? And I heard a story, someone saying no one could have predicted COVID. Sure, maybe not COVID specifically, but
Hmm.
there are articles written, and I think it was one of the major cellular businesses in the US that actually spent time, money, and energy 2 years ago in running a scenario of a global pandemic for their
Right.
business and how they would react. Guess what happened when the global pandemic hit? Their business went up 411%. Why? Is because they had planned for it. And it's so easy for us to say, oh, we can't plan for something like that. I say, yeah, we can. Because guess what? Let's just sit down in a room on a Zoom chat, whatever it is, and let's bring these minds together and say, okay, if X happens, what's the next step? How do we react? And I think that for me is a key learning as a coach and someone who runs my own business as well, is like, okay, how can I insulate myself if this happens? What would happen if the starters no somehow got affected and we couldn't use the starters at Bred anymore? What would
We've
happen
got
then?
grandma starter in the fridge.
Seriously, we do. We have a backup starter for that reason.
Of course
They
you do.
gave me that tip. He was like, "What happens if someone puts some dish soap in your starter? What you
Yeah.
can't shut down the business." So
Yeah.
right, we need a grandmother.
Yeah, and that's such a good, and that to me that's part of your anticipation playbook. That literally is like page one. We have extra one. It's under lock and key. No one touches it. It just sits in there. That's again, that to me is very responsible and not being vulnerable and not being a victim when these things happen. So
Well,
kudos to you guys.
the regulars will be knocking on the door. They'll be like, "What do you mean you don't have bread? What is this?"
Amazing. I want to say thank you guys so much. It was really such a pleasure to share this time with you. And I don't say this to every guest, but I really do hope that we can get together in person before too long. I would love to bring my family into your shop. Both our kids are sourdough freaks. That's why I want to start making it here. And don't tell any of the locals here in Nova Scotia, but the sourdough game here is weak, like real
There's
weak.
this opportunity there for you, Brad.
Oh, if Lindsay heard you say that, she'd be very upset. I think it's a great idea, but yeah,
It's
no.
pretty addictive. Once you get that sourdough starter going, you're gonna be texting me every week.
That's to train kids up how to feed the sourdough stuff.
Kids do love sourdough though. We have so many kids who come in pushchairs and they're like the baguettes. They seem to love the crusty
just rip
baguettes.
off the top.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to, sincerely, I look forward to maintaining this relationship and nurturing like a mother this relationship,
Mhm.
um, like the starter. And I will send you a photo of our first sourdough attempt. Hopefully it
True.
works.
Well, if any of your listeners do have any questions about
Yes.
sourdough or interested in following us on Instagram, it's very sort of visual, but there is sort of connection there as well. It's Eds EDS underscore bread BRED. So Ed's bread with the underscore in the middle.
And then,
I'm sure put it on the notes or
And
yeah,
then
definitely.
also you can find all the links on our website,
Mhm.
edsbred.com, edsbred.com. And if any of your listeners ever have the opportunity to come up to Whistler and want to try our bread, you can order ahead with a 10% discount code with Brad Bodnachuk as
Yes.
code. You'll
Amazing.
have to
Thank
check
you.
the spelling on your podcast app,
Yep.
and we'll give you a 10% off your first order. So yeah, come check us out.
Amazing, guys. A discount on amazing bread. And yeah, I'll make sure I spell the name correctly and you guys spell the name correctly when you're using the discount code. That's so generous and so awesome. And I mean this sincerely. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation. I learned a ton, both about you guys personally and about sourdough and sourdough starters, which is really what I, again, ulterior motive was hoping to get out of this. Um,
no.
Thank you.
but I'm encouraged again, sincerely, to continue this conversation. I would love to link up with you guys again and do round two at some point, maybe post COVID vaccine world when it's just everyone's throwing sourdough in the air because it's just so free and fun and awesome.
We've now
Um,
pivoted to something else because everyone's making sourdough at home.
yeah, exactly. But I also do encourage you guys as well. Even you don't have to be a vegan to enjoy what Natasha and Ed are creating. And if you don't follow them on social media, I will encourage you again to do that because visually what they're doing is it doesn't look like, and this is not to throw shade at the vegan world, but it doesn't look like vegan food. It's really, really high level. I
Mhm.
can appreciate that from my background in food. I never did elevated food like that, but it's stunning, and I want to celebrate you guys for being able to execute that and for flying that vegan flag. I think it's an important one. Personally, not a choice that I make, but I 100% respect everyone that chooses it. And if your purpose behind it is to make the world a better place, then I will fly that flag with you at any time, any day, anywhere. So thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Ed, so much for making time for me and listeners today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Thanks, Brad. It's
I
been
really
great.
appreciate your kind words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that is it. Thank you guys for tuning in. If it wasn't for you guys, the show wouldn't exist and we couldn't spread awesome words and brands like Bred and Whistler. Again, if you guys are in BC and traveling up that way, hit them up in Creekside and use that discount code as well. Save yourself 10%, which is such a kind offer. Again, thank you guys. You all know what to do. Until next time, be good and do good. That's it, guys. We did it. Well done.
Woo.
Easy.